Hello, this is Alan G. Davison, and I believe this is going to be my last Blessed-oriented vocal shout-out, more or less. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the publishing process itself. Now, mind you, I am a self-published author. I didn't get to go through some big fancy-smancy business and stuff like that. I more or less did everything right here at my computer. Makes it pretty dang easy, but it's also pretty expensive. I got lucky and managed to get my package at half price, but it still ended up costing me about $1,600. So anybody who's actually interested in self-publishing a book, it is pricey. I ended up running into a friend of mine I had a family member who published through a publisher, but apparently that costed her a pretty penny, around $800. Not as bad as mine, but still, no matter what you're gonna do, you gotta spend money on your work and care. Mind you, mine included a lot of things. I ended up getting about 60 copies of the book, 20 hardcover, 40 softcover, bookmarks, postcards, business cards, all sorts of different fun little things that are supposed to make me feel good for spending that much money. But more or less, it didn't really work out. This is going to be a little bit different in the sense that I'm actually going to be streaming some of the pictures for the original cover. Now, mind you, my story is a little difficult to peg down, but it's basically a sci-fi action-adventure story. Now, mind you, I make it a habit to put in a little comedy, a little bit of romance. I spice it up a little bit. Life isn't just one thing, there's always bits and pieces, in my opinion. And so the first cover that should be actually showing up on the screen right now looks like something straight out of a romance novel, with a young man and a young woman standing back to back, an enchanted forest in the background. And when I got this back, I was like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. You're telling me this is what you came up with? I mean, did any of you even read the blasted book? I know you don't want to actually read the book for this, the sake of, I don't know. Why wouldn't you want to read it? Would you like to know what you're pretty much putting your name on? Well, yeah, that one wasn't exactly very fun. I'll admit it might have been partially my fault for not being very specific, but you would think that somebody would give them a description or something like that besides just what I wanted to say. So, yeah, that was not very fun at all. The picture hasn't come up just yet. I don't believe so anyway. And that was the second one. It was a picture of... It was supposed to be of Hope and Dane's father. For those of you who don't know, Dane is more or less haunted by a ghost of his father, more or less. And basically, it's his basically encouraging him to do good and stay in the right-minded sort of style. And Hope is basically the opposite end of the spectrum. Be violent, take care of things quick, painful, that sort of style. Basically the opposite of his father. I really wanted to have those two characters. One, because Dane's father was supposed to be, faceless. I had him facing away from the picture so nobody could actually see exactly what he looked like. And I had Hope's face shrouded by the hood. That was supposed to be the whole idea behind it, but they never got the cloak right, and they really made Dane's father look ridiculously young in the shots. And they just kept doing it over and over again, and it looks like such a bad photoshopped picture, and it was just freaking frustrating dealing with that. Mind you, if I wanted anything else, they would charge me even more money after, the $1,600 I put in. Now, mind you, that was probably pretty cheap, but, for a person who works for a minimum wage job out in the middle of nowhere, you can't exactly just rustle up $1,000, dollars to, do things like this. So, I was not too thrilled with the concept of being charged again, and eventually I before that I had a friend who was helping out, Mr. Crowley, who was trying to get a hold of some people he knew that were good at drawing, but nothing came of it. We couldn't. He apparently had a friend of his who came up with a bunch of pictures, but they were apparently terrible, so he didn't show me. And there were other people who just didn't get. Nothing seemed to have satisfied him. in terms of picture-wise. And they kept hounding me about the actual cover itself because they wanted to get things out and done as fast as possible, which is never a good idea now that I think about it. Yeah, so the company's name was Ex Libris, and they were pressuring me, and eventually I sort of wanted to get it out as well. You know, the sooner the better, if you know what I mean. But I just was never satisfied with any other cover, so and perhaps a sheer stroke of either brilliance or just, you know, sick and tired of having to deal with the faces, I decided to, I took a picture of my hand, I went on Google and I found some lightning, and I put some lightning bolts to each and every single one of the tip of the hand, and I said, here, go with this. So, no, before you ask, that's not my hand on the cover. I would love to say that it is, but, it's not. I used my left hand, that kind of looks like it's right, and I sort of blackened the area around the hand, so it looks kind of pixelated, and it was on print, Microsoft Paint and stuff, so it wasn't very high quality, but I was like, here, go with this, keep the background with the cracks and stuff like that, that's exactly what I envisioned the background to be, and I was like, here, go with it. And the next one I actually ended up getting back is the one that you see on the book as well, and I was like, fine, it works, good, moving on. Mind you, I was a little bit disappointed in the fact that I couldn't do the actual binding, sword thing that I really wanted to do. Mike came up with that idea. Mr. Crowley also had put some ideas into it as well, and he had some sketch art drawn up, but I never got to see it, of course. Which was always kind of frustrated me to no end. It's like, you've got all these great ideas, and he's like, didn't want to show me because he probably didn't like the quality of it. I can understand as an author myself is that when you first start off, you're really sensitive, or you're first introducing something to someone new. You're a little sensitive about your work. I've sort of gotten tougher skin. I have no issues with people, criticizing my work and tearing it apart, because at this point it's kind of like, yeah, I put 2 years in my work. You're taking 2 seconds of your time to tear it apart. I'm not going to get bothered by that at all. It's usually how it works. Ex Libris wasn't exactly a very good editing. They didn't have very good editors. I don't think they actually read the actual book itself, because my girlfriend actually went over the edits they made and just found tons and tons of things that they didn't point out. And other things that they did want edited didn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense, because they wanted me to keep using said over and over and over and over again, even though I was using other words to alliterate how a person was speaking. And I was like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. It was a freaking nightmare in and of itself, dealing with them. And to this day, I'm still technically trying to find somebody else to work with in terms of publishing. But I haven't even finished the first book, so I'm not too concerned. I ended up running into a friend of mine who's I asked to work on the cover for the second one. So the second one's going to be a similar concept with, obscuring the face and stuff, because I really did want people to leave it up to their imagination as best as possible of what these characters look like. So if you ever see a TV show or a movie or anything like that, heaven forbid I might actually become successful, it's going to be other people's interpretations, because the books themselves were created in the idea that I would give you, a close to as visual image as I could, and let you more or less, draw your own conclusions of what that individual actually looks like. So anything besides the book is basically an interpretation, in my opinion. Unless, of course, it doesn't take place during the events of the book, then by all means, the events are legitimately part of canon. At least as far as I'm concerned. So if I say it's cool, it's cool. Let's see here. What else did we have? When I actually got the books back, I was actually pleasantly surprised to actually see them. They were a good-sized book, to be honest, I have to admit. I might actually see if I can shuffle up the picture that I actually had taken of the actual book itself. But, oh boy, was I surprised when I actually saw the price on Amazon.com and stuff like that. I think it was like $34 or something like that for a hardcover book, and I was like, no one's going to pay that much money for this book. I was luckily the digital copy is like a little under like $3 or something like that. I'm like, that's more acceptable. As much as I love my work, I know it's not worth $34. It would be great if somebody was willing to pay that much for a book, but I'm a no-name author still. I seriously doubt anybody would really want to pay that much money. I can't even be paying $34 for a hardcover copy of Harry Potter. And Harry Potter's freaking famous as freaking hell. Well, both the character and the book. I'm not funny. Anyway. Yeah, that was a lot of that. Another thing that really ticked me off about them was that they sent information around to different groups and companies and stuff like that, like press release, so to speak. And apparently, a couple of them didn't go through, and they said, "No, we're not going to resend it." It was pretty vivid and extensive, and I was like, "Okay, fine, whatever. You guys don't want to be nice to me or anything like that. I understand." And then there was another couple that said that they didn't have a fax machine, and I was like, "Why the fuck does that count?" Oh, sorry about that. I was just pissed as all hell when I saw that, and I was like, "You gotta be freaking kidding me! You're cutting corners! Ah! You're making money off of my work as well as I am. Why in the world didn't you be at least a little nice to me, or at least try to push the success?" And another thing that they did that really ended up ticking me off was that they wanted to sell me tickets to go to a international event and a national event to sit basically in a booth and show people my book, more or less, at book conventions. And I was like, I'm self-publishing a book. I don't have that type of money. I can't drop $1,000. And you know what the better part was is that they said they would actually send someone there to go to the international one. And part of me is like, you guys already haven't proven yourself very capable or desirable to actually try to sell my book, simply for the fact that you're probably just gonna have someone sit there, look there, read their, doing their own little thing as the people just walk by. So it's kind of like, why in the world would I want to pay even more money just to send some random individual over across the ocean in order to try to sell my book overseas? I don't have the time. I was going to school at the time when they actually sent this invitation, and I'm like, why in the world are you trying to charge me even more money when I've made it apparently clear that I do not have money in order to throw around like that? Honestly, it was frustrating as heck. So, yeah, that was always fun. Another thing that I found interesting was that a lot of people who the publishing companies and editors themselves, and they're difficult to get a hold of. I was apparently supposed to get an agent for basic book publishing, and I sent emails away around trying to figure out what the heck I was supposed to do, because I had no idea what I was doing. I just put it on the email and I started searching for different publishing companies that would suit the specifics of my book, and I never got a response. Never. I still to this day have never gotten a response from any of the individuals I sent an email to. And I ended up trying to find people through people, but everyone else said you should just self-publish. So, of course, that was never fun or thrilling either when you find out that you couldn't go a traditional route. And nobody was willing to actually help you out unless they knew someone. I was depressed when it came to that, to be honest. I was like, wow. Well, that's the world we live in, where, you've got to know the right people in order to get anywhere these days. That was not fun at all. Yeah, the self-publishing was a freaking headache. I mean, I could go on and on. It's probably a little slanted towards me. I'm pretty sure I got a really damn good deal off of everything. But, when you put your heart and soul into something and you have to pay in order to see any part of it realized, it really does hurt. It really does. So, yeah, that was always fun. Yeah, so word to the wise, if you're going to self-publish a book, be very, very careful. Never, ever, ever put a whole lot of faith in them. They will do anything and everything they can in order to try and make an extra dollar. And I'm being very biased, but you need to have this sort of mentality when you go into this sort of thing, simply for the fact that if you just buy, you will find yourself losing a lot of money. And now you have to spend money to make money sometimes. There is a limit to what you should be doing. As much as I would have loved to have gone to a convention or something like that, it probably wouldn't have been a good idea to have spent $1,000 in order to go. Now, I'm going to wrap things up right here and then, and I think I'm going to be ending my overall talking spree for now. Like I said, I might actually come back and do some discussions on other things that aren't the Blessed related. So feel free to subscribe if you like the sound of my voice, and you might actually hear from me again sometime.